Good. So first, just want to say thanks to Nary Metro, to Angela, to Debbie for allowing me this opportunity. I certainly enjoy this stuff. For those of you who know me, the opportunity to share and spread the word is fantastic. So I'm always here to help. I want you guys to know that. Please feel free to reach out anytime. But thanks again to Nary Metro, DC for giving me the opportunity and providing the platform and the sponsorship for all of us, and for everything you guys are doing. You guys have been amazing, with this COVID and everything. So, so just a little background about myself. I am a professional EOS implementer. EOS stands for the Entrepreneurial Operating System. And so what I do is I actually work with small businesses and the entrepreneurs, the leadership teams, and helping them get more out of their business, getting more out of what they want out of their business. And so I do this by implementing EOS. Many of you may know EOS by the book Traction. Traction was written by our founder, Gino Wickman. And so we focus on strengthening three components of your business, which is vision, traction, and healthy. The vision side of it is just making sure that we're all 100% on the same page of where we're going and how we're going to get there, right? That's kind of easy for the leadership team. The traction component is really what I focus on, is that discipline, the accountability, the execution of bringing that vision down to the ground and making sure that all of our frontline employees, all of our frontline colleagues are actually executing and with discipline, that vision, right? And that's sometimes a disconnect. And the healthy side of it is just making sure that we're working together in an open, honest, cohesive, vulnerable environment. We just want to make sure that, we're getting the issues out on the table, we're addressing the real issues, and that we're working together in a functional, sort of healthy, cohesive manner. So that's a little bit about Traction. I am a Nary member. For many of you who know me, I was at BOA for about 14 years. I started as a production manager. I moved to sales. I became our sales manager. And ultimately, when I left about 14 years later in 2017, I was our general manager. I was managing about 15 million of our $35 million book of business at BOA back then. And I was a member of the leadership team. I also owned part of the company, so I was able to successfully exit and sell my shares back to the other members of the firm. When I left BOA, I became Chief Operating Officer of Kane Landscapes, which is a design build landscaping firm out in Sterling. And so with theirs, when I actually sort of implemented many of the tools and things I'm going to share with you today, BOA ran on a lot of these simple same tools and concepts, but I actually purely implemented EOS when I was at Kane. So just a little background about myself. I'll let you guys know where I'm coming from. I am a CR, so I do have my certified remodeler. And again, I was at BOA, for 14 years. And so certainly, hopefully have some background and can help you not only in what we're going to talk about today, but also in the practical side of our industry. So a little bit of the agenda, just sort of jumping right in. So these are, I'm going to try to answer sort of these 6 questions today. So, are we getting your fundamentals in place? Are we running our business as simply as possible? Do we have the right people in the right seats? Are your direct reports and then subsequently the direct reports of your direct reports in the right seats? How are our people performing with regards to their capacity? Are they able to get their job done well? Are you able to prioritize properly? Do we know what the real priorities of the organization are? And then really, are we making decisions attacking those short-term problems, those immediate things that are in front of us with the long-term view or the greater good of the community or the environment or our company? And so these are the things that we're going to talk about today. And it's all really just sort of a shift back to the basics. Things have gotten so complicated over the years. And then when something like COVID hits us, it just sort of ramps up and intensifies all of the stuff that's going on in our business. So let's we'll go ahead and just get right in. And so I want you guys to ask yourself, are your fundamentals in place? And frankly, it's going to be hard for you to answer that because what are the fundamentals, right? So as I define the fundamentals of making your company resilient, these are the 4 things that we're really focused on. Where is your leadership? Where are your sales and marketing, your operations, and your finance? So when we look at the fundamentals, the last 3, as you can see there, are really just as simple as, get work, do work, and get paid, right? So it's just, you can boil any business down, any industry, multi-million, couple 100,000, it doesn't matter. You've got to have those three. And then you have to have the fourth one, which is the first one on the slide, is the leadership, right? It's someone's got to lead this, someone's got to have the vision, and someone's got to tell us the direction we're going. So let's just dig right in and start talking about some of these fundamentals, and just making sure that we have them secure and that we're ready, and that we're going to be resilient and prepared for the future. So with regards to your leadership, all we're trying to make sure here is that are our leaders, are our managers clear on, the vision of the organization? Do they really know where we're going to go? And do we know what the objectives are? And do we know what the goals of our organization is? And it's very interesting when I'm working with companies, I'll ask them this question: do you know what the vision of the company is? Or do you know what the 10-year target is? And I get this unbelievable, resounding yes. Of course we know what the vision is. Of course we know where we're going, George. And then I'll say, okay, how about we all just take a piece of paper and write it down? And then the quantity of variation in the answers that I get back is almost unbelievable. So I'd almost encourage you guys to do this as a fun little exercise next time you're with your leadership team and you're together in a weekly meeting. Ask everybody around the table, hey, just write down your vision, just privately. Tell me what you think our corporate vision is. I think you might be surprised on what your leadership team's version of your vision is. And so, just get that, and then you'll realize that you really need to be reinforcing that vision or what it is that we're working on. And then once we are aligned, we've got to make sure that it's shared by all, right? We've got to make sure that we're pushing it down, that it's disseminating down throughout the whole organization, and that the whole organization believes in it, and that it's tried and true. So once we get the leadership on board, we've got to, again, make sure it's shared by all, and that it's pushed down through the whole organization. In addition to, I'll use the word team. So for us in our industry, our team is our subs and our vendors. It's not just our employees. So we've got to make sure that, when we have this alignment, that our subs and our vendors are also aligned with the direction we're going, right? We've got to make sure our suppliers are on board with us, and we've got to make sure that we're sharing it with them, and that it's truly shared by all. So that's what we talk about when we talk about our leadership, is just making sure that we're getting clear on where we're going, what's the objectives, and what's the goals. So when we talk about sales and marketing, right, this is just the get work, right? We've got to go out into the marketplace, create demand, and convert on that demand. And so this is the get the work part, right? So the first thing here, making sure that our fundamentals are in place, or with developing and building a resilient company, is we've got to make sure that our current clients are being retained. That current client retention absolutely trumps the new business acquisition, any exercises that we can do there. And so what we've got to do here is we have to make sure that we are dramatically increasing our communication with our current clients. It's not just an email. It's got to be a two-way communication. It's got to be some sort of connection. And it's not just connecting with them on a professional level. It's not going to cut it anymore. We've got to drill down and get to know our clients personally. And so, as they say, people are going to buy from people that they know, like, and trust. And if you're not increasing that communication, and you're not increasing that trust and that likability with, yourself and your sales team, you really are significantly hurting yourself. So make sure that you're, reaching out, that it's not just the corporate, sort of reach out and branding being done by your marketing team, but that your sales team themselves are picking up the phone and calling people and making those personal connections. And the other thing I would say there is that you want to make sure that you're reaching out to them, and you're offering things that you wouldn't normally offer, or you'd offer help help in a different manner than you normally do it. If you've got an elderly client, ask them if you can bring them something, or frankly, don't ask them, because they're probably going to tell you no. Just bring them something. Bring it to their front doorstep and ring the doorbell and let them know that you left a little gift for them or something. Go out of the way, because those are the things that are really going to sort of stand out and make a difference for you. So when we start looking to the future, gaining market share, right? I really encourage you as, sales manager, general manager, whatever your title is, that you're really sort of digging into your sales pipeline, and that you're really sort of paying extra attention to all of your leads and making sure that your sales team is truly qualifying their leads right now, right? We can't just have people doing lots of activities to fill their day. They've got to be really focused on the high payoff activities. I mean, the only thing we know is we've got to sell ourselves out of the current situation, right? We've got to sell ourselves forward. And that doesn't mean selling things for low margin. It just means that we have to generate revenue right now. So digging into your pipeline, making sure that the decision makers and the influencers are engaged in every interaction that they're having with your sales team right now, and that you're digging into their pipeline and their funnel, and you're really sort of making sure that your potential clients or your design contract clients really truly understand your value proposition, that they really understand your unique individual competitive advantage, or differentiator, whatever you want to call it, so that when they make sure that they know what they're buying from you, and they can't buy that from anybody else, right? I mean, right now, people, of course, are going to be shopping. Of course, they're going to be looking for a deal. Of course, they're going to be saying to you, or they're going to be saying to themselves, hey, should be, lots of contractors looking for work. Let me drive the lowest cost. But, we can't be in a race to the bottom. That's not going to help anybody. So the good news is as NARI members, most of us know that, and we're not sort of willing to get into a bidding or pricing war. So at least, being a member of NARI, we have some of that, confidence and conviction coming behind us. And the other thing is, when you're digging into these numbers, particularly as we're looking forward in the market share in our funnel, let's make sure that, our close dates are real. Our sales team giving us reliable data. Do we actually anticipate that revenue being closed when they're telling us it's going to be closed? Is the dollar value accurate? So just making sure that we're getting real live data from our sales team to the best of our ability. And then the last bullet point is, where's the money going? This is circling back to the marketing side of it. We have to be intentional with our marketing dollars. And I know it sort of sounds silly. We always should be intentional with our marketing dollars. But what I mean by that is let's really dig into the data we have. Let's do an analysis. We might be, for example, getting lots of leads from one or two of our marketing sources. But I want you guys to dig deeper, and I want to know, where are the contracts coming from? Because we might be getting a disproportionate large number of leads from one or two resources, but there may be a third resource that actually all of our contracts are coming from. And that's where we should be spending our money and redirecting our money. And I want you guys to really understand that right now is not the time to be pulling money back from your sales and your marketing team. Right now is actually the time to be spending more money. I really want you to consider that marketing is not overhead, it's opportunity. And right now you've got to be creating as much opportunity for yourself and your company as possible. So when I talk about operations and the fundamentals behind your operations, there's three things here on the supply chain, the technology, and the employees. The supply chain itself is really four things. And so when I talk about the supply chain, I want you guys to think of it, typically in our industry, we always think, what are the three things that's easy to bid, right? It's just our labor, the cost of materials, and our subs. But there's a fourth component that is frequently left out. It is that site supervision or that management fee. So, many times I would really encourage you guys to look at that there might be four numbers that you really need to be trying to quantify. And I'm not worried about the bid side of this right now. I'm talking about the operations. So when I look at operations and supply chain, I don't want you just looking at, your subs and your vendors and your own in-house labor. I want you to be making sure that you're looking at your in-house supervision. And so when we talk about supply chain, you really need to be identifying your weakest link right now. Because as we all know, you could have a great carpenter, but if there's no cabinets to install, it doesn't matter, right? You might have your project ready for the rough-in with the electrician, and if the electrician doesn't show up, it's all on you anyways. So make sure that you're going through your supply chain, not only on site, but vertically looking forwards and backwards. How long is a lead time for your new cabinet order, things like that, and making sure that we're really paying attention to that supply chain and identifying the weakest link. When we get into the technology side of things, All right, we get into the technology side of things. I just want to make sure that you guys are using it effectively. There's so much technology out there. There's so many, web-based platforms and things. Let's just make sure that the technology is not wagging the dog and that we are wagging the technology, right? And so, are you getting real live data from your technology as quickly as you need it? Are you getting actually accurate? Is the technology working for you, or are you working for the technology? So just make sure that you're not sort of aimlessly going after a new solution with regards to technology, and that you're actually effectively using and deploying the technology that many of you already have in your office. So just make sure that, if you're making a new technology choice, is it because it's the flavor of the month club, or is it because it's tried and true and it's really going to help you continue to build your company? And then when we get down to the employees, we just want to make sure that our employees are they truly engaged? Do they understand what we mean by being engaged? Are they filling the critical roles that have to be done within our organization? And I'm going to talk a little later about, right people in the right seats. But, are your employees on the operations side, are they really resilient? Are they really agile? Are they being malleable? Are they willing to do more than just what their job description is? Do they care about the culture of the organization? So when we're talking about our employees, we want to also make sure that you're supporting your employees. Not just now, we should always be doing this, but if anything right now, we have to be the lighthouse in this storm, right? There's a lot of still nervousness going on. People are not sure about, the industry, the marketplace, their own job. You've got to be reaching out to your employees and giving them the comfortability and the conviction that, you may not know the answer, but you know that you're working hard to work with them, and that when you do have some answers and you do have some directions, you're going to share it with them, and that communication is always open, and your door is always open, and you're willing to hear from them, not only on the professional level, but on the personal level. So just make sure that you're really, connecting with them, and that they're aligned with where you're going. So on the finance side, this is the sort of get paid, right? So, we talked about, getting work. We talked about doing the work. Well, now we've got to get paid, right? So this is the finance side of it. So when we talk about finance, we want to talk about what are the cash drivers within your organization. The obvious easy one is revenue, right? Just sell more. Well, okay, that's great, but there's only so many jobs out there. There's only so many clients that want us in their home right now. So what are some of the other cash drivers, or what are the other levers that we can sort of exercise, not only now, but always? And so, obviously revenue or price is one thing. Our cost of goods sold, right, or our margin is one of the second drivers that we've got to be looking for and driving that. What we need to be doing is reducing our errors and our mistakes, right? We've got to be reducing the rework all the time. And, with regards to rework, I want to make sure you guys are challenging yourself. It doesn't just cost you, 2x to rework, to do rework. It's 3, 4, 5 times because of the opportunity costs that have been left behind while you're redoing the work. So errors and mistakes are a huge opportunity within our industry. Another cash flow driver, of course, is your AR, making sure that you're driving down your AR days. Another cash flow driver is your G&A, right? What are your general and administrative expenses? Keeping an eye on those line items in your overhead. Another cash flow driver is for you to be looking at your compensation, at your labor costs. They're a huge line item in every single one of our P&Ls. So we've got to be making sure that we're looking at compensation and our labor costs as a cash flow driver. The other one is just the service time, right? How long does it take for us to produce the work that we've sold? If we can reduce the duration, we can drive some of that cash. And then the last cash flow driver that I want you to think about is, what are some of these sort of ancillary sales, or what are some of the upsales that we can do with our clients, right? What are some of the bolt-on items? I'm not talking about change orders where we or a client needed to change something, or even an unforeseen condition. I'm talking about things that are significant value but have little cost to your clients, and as such are incredibly profitable, so they're driving high value, but they might actually have very little cost for you to install. So these sort of upsales, that you should be looking for, again, sort of driving that cash. And then when we transition to the cash acceleration strategies, we talk about reducing our sales cycle, right? So we've got to figure out, how do we reduce the time from when the new lead comes in to the time that we sign a design contract, to the time that we sign a construction contract, and constantly trying to reduce that strategy. And then, of course, we want to increase our production, right? So the way to do that is to reduce production time, so that we can, increase how quickly that we're getting to a new milestone to drive cash from our clients. And then the last cash acceleration strategy is really, right, of course, is our billing cycle, in the sense of reducing our AR, but increasing our AP, right? So if we can slow down our cycle for accounts payable, we can keep that cash a little bit longer. I am saying to you, look, maybe you can go from a 30 to a 45-day period. I'm also want to make sure I send the clear message that you can't do this at compromising the relationships with your subs and your vendors. If you're compromising that relationship, that's not a strategy. That's a short-term Band-Aid that's going to come to bite you in the rear end at a later date. It's certainly going to blow up on you. But there are plenty of larger companies that you can extend out some of that cash and keep the cash in your bank for a couple extra days. So wrap this up with regards to the fundamentals. You just need to ask yourself, are those fundamentals in place? And again, a recap of those fundamentals is your leadership with regards to vision, and then do work, get work, do work, and get paid. Those three fundamentals. So what do you think about that now? Do you really believe that your fundamentals are in place, or are they things that you need to go get in place so that your company continues to be resilient as we look forward to the future? The next thing on our agenda is talk about to simplify, and to make things as simple as possible. So, ask yourself throughout this next part of our slide deck is are you keeping things as simple as possible? And so let's get into this. What happens in many organizations is that complexity will grow over time. And part of the reason that it does is that it usually happens very slowly, and it usually happens because people have been around for a very long time. And what happens in the beginning, a process that happened at the beginning of the organization and a process that is happening now, has slowly morphed over the time, so that when somebody, like the person on the right-hand side of this slide, comes in and says, hey, why do we do that? And you guys just shrug your shoulders and say, well, it's because we've always done it that way. I would strongly encourage you, if that's the answer, you need to dig in and unravel that process or that policy, and the person on the left, help them out, and take all the kinks and the bugs out of the line, so that you just end up with a nice straight line between A and M, or A and N, or whatever it is, as opposed to running through the whole alphabet. We can simplify a lot of stuff, draw a straight line. It absolutely will simplify some things for you. So, right now the world is just so complex and so changing so quickly and so chaotic that we just absolutely have to simplify. And so I'll just let you know is less is more, right? Just dumb it down, make it simple, and help yourself out. So what are the things that you can simplify? So four of the things I'd mention here is that your messages, your messaging, and your communication, your processes, the structure of your organization. So when I think structure, I want you guys to think about your org chart in the traditional sense. We at EOS will call that your accountability chart, because we're focused more on the accountability than we are on the organizational structure, but also your meetings. So let's get into this. I love this quote. This is former CEO of Ford, right? Is that we all think we're communicating, but it's all just an illusion. So this is one of my favorite quotes when it comes to communication, because as Alan says, most of the time it's just an illusion. So when we talk about messaging and communication, I want you guys to think about two things here. And I realize this isn't a parenting seminar, but for those of you who have children, this will probably resonate with you. First is you just have to have a handful of rules, right? Too many, they get forgotten, they get confused, they get manipulated. You just have to have a handful of rules. The second thing with regards to good parenting is you just have to repeat yourself often, right? We as humans need to hear things at least 7 times before we actually hear it and it sinks in. So I want you guys to start playing a game with yourself. And the next time that you're really frustrated with one of your members, one of your colleagues, and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to go tell this person for the 4th time how to do something, I want you to change that frustration to a game and put a smile on your face and be happy about it and say, you know what? I get to do this for the 4th time, only 3 more times after this, and they're going to get it because it's going to make you feel better about it. It's going to actually lighten the mood, and they're going to hear you a little bit better. So make sure when you're talking about something new or you're training somebody that you're consistent with the message and that you actually have your own rhythm, that you know once a week you've got to go check back in with that person and ask them how they're doing with that, so that they can stick to it. So you just want to make sure also underneath good parenting that you're being consistent, right? That you've got to walk the talk, you've got to demonstrate the behavior. So with regards to good parenting, again, we want to make sure that we've got a handful of rules, that we're repeating ourselves often, and that we're being consistent. And then lastly is that we've got to speak the same language, right? So when we use different words and we use different terms throughout the course of a day or even within a meeting or even within a week, we really confuse, our colleagues. So you might be in a marketing meeting and you guys are having a very sophisticated conversation about demand generation, and yet you go back to your sales team and you ask them, how many leads did you have last week? It's totally confusing. I mean, vernacular language, words are important. Make sure you're using the same language. I've actually got 2 clients where they literally put words up on the board to help, people coming in from the outside, that they've sort of have coined a couple key words. And so you've got to communicate that and just keep it simple. Make sure you're using the same language. So with regards to processes, I really want you guys to think you've just got to do less better, right? You have to have the disciplines to do the basics well. Right now and always, we as entrepreneurs have this tendency to sort of have all these want to haves or these nice to haves, or wouldn't it be great if we ran that way? Well, right now, forget it. You just need the basics right now. You just need the core basic processes to get your business done. And I would encourage you as managers to sort of choose your battles, right? Right now, which battle are you going to fight with regards to which processes? Don't get bogged down in perfection right now. Just make it great, right? That, perfection is the enemy of great. And so, choose your battles, make sure the right processes are getting done. But, don't add a whole bunch of other stuff on right now. With regards to running a tighter ship, I just want you to think about what can you throw overboard? And another analogy here is, think of a race car. They're always cutting weight, right? So, we may have had a bunch of processes, and right now they just don't make sense. I mean, there's just too much stuff going on. We're running too fast, too hard to sort of enforce all of these things. And so just again, getting down to the core processes and running a tighter ship. And what I mean by that is throwing the stuff overboard that's just ancillary, it's just too much, and really getting down to the basics and driving home the basics right now with regards to your processes. And the last thing I want you to do right now is, when you're simplifying, is just document your processes. And so what I mean by this is I don't want you guys running off and writing a whole bunch of documents. What I mean by document is right now, take notes. Take notes about what's working and what's not working. And so that when the sun comes out again, when we get the COVID straitjacket taken off of us and we can actually all take a deep breath, then we can go back and rewrite our processes. So what I want you to do right now is just take notes of what's going on, and actually so that you can pull those notes back out when the sun comes back out. And so what I would encourage you to do is follow your people. They're going to demonstrate to you which processes work and why. And so the analogy I like to use here is I was actually talking with a landscape architect, a friend of mine many years ago, and I said to him, I said, how do you know where to put paths in a city park? And, you know, how do you draw that out before we actually install them? And frankly, he kind of just shrugged his shoulders and said, well, we draw the paths in places that we think that we want to go, and we do them in nice shapes and patterns. But the fact of the matter is you go into any park a year after we've installed it, and the people are going to tell you where to go. They're the ones who are cutting the corners. They're the ones where the grass has all been trampled down, and now it's just a dirt path. That's where the paths are supposed to go, but we don't know that ahead of time. So I would encourage you to kind of think about it that way and realize your people are going to demonstrate to you. They're going to walk the path of least resistance right now. Document that path. Figure out if it's okay or if it's going to hurt your business. Obviously, we need to retrain them then. But if it's not going to hurt your business, then just document it that way and let them go through the path of least resistance. So that's what we're doing when we talk about simplify. We talk about structure. You know, I want you to think about this: is do you have the right structure for your unique organization right now? And so again, structure is my word for what you guys, many of you will resonate with an org chart. So we call it an accountability chart because we are focused on accountabilities, not titles. We think that titles create entitlement. And right now, I just want to know what you're accountable for, and are you getting those accountabilities done? I don't really care the title that's on your business card. I care that you're getting the work done that we need within our organization. So do you have the right structure for your unique organization, or do you have too much? Are you too top heavy right now? You know, making sure that we look at that. And then is it too complex? Do we have too many layers? Is there too much redundancy with what's going on in our office? And so another exercise I'd love for you guys to do and have some fun with is think about a file in your office, whether it's a physical file or whether it's an electronic file, but how many people touch it in your organization as it goes from a lead to a design contract to a construction contract? Physically either watch that file flow through your office or mentally watch it electronically flow through your office. You might be surprised how many people are actually touching that file and for how long. So you might learn something from actually following one single file all the way through your office. And then lastly, I would just empower your people to make it simple. They're going to show you the way. They're going to demonstrate the way. You know, let go of the vine. You know, just let go. Trust your people. If you've got good people, they're going to take care of you. So empower them to make the right decisions. So next, when we talk about simplifying, we're talking about your meetings. So, you know, are all of your meetings, are they healthy? Are they productive? Are they necessary? And most importantly, are they intentional? And do they start on time and do they end on time? We've got to get rid of this death by meeting that's happening in so many organizations. And so I will encourage you, you know, ask yourself, is your team in too many meetings? Are they in meetings for too long? Are only the necessary and right people in these meetings? You know, and once they're in these meetings, are the people being open and honest about the issues that are on the table? Are they really sort of, you know, can you get issues resolved quickly because people are willing to participate? You know, are the issues being solved, and also is the right issue being solved? And so when we say in EOS, everybody has issues. I mean, we all got black eyes. Let's move on. We can get over that. But when we solve issues, are we solving the root cause of the issue, or are we just solving the symptom of the issue? And so when we talk about root causes, we want to make sure that we dig in and find the real root cause of the issue, that we just don't scurry around with a high level of activity to solve the symptom. We need to dig in and solve the real root cause, because if not, the system's just going to, or the issue is just going to show up next week or the following week as just a different derivative of currently what's going on. So you got to make sure you solve the real root cause. You know, you don't want to just put a Band-Aid on something or duct tape it. And then lastly, at the end of your meetings, are people walking away with accountabilities? Or they actually understand they have been assigned an accountability that they have to go do and solve a problem? And then more importantly, is anybody following back up with them to make sure that those accountabilities are actually completed within the time frame and in the manner in which you agreed to them within the organization? So if you're having a meeting and people are not being assigned accountabilities, I would really encourage you to ask yourself, how do you reduce the duration of this meeting and increase the accountabilities that are coming out of that meeting? We just want to make sure that you're making everything as simple as possible. Again, I would encourage you to think about simplifying, and what can you simplify with those principles that we just talked about. With regards to our direct reports, we want to make sure that we've got the right people in the right seats. So let's talk a little bit about that, right? So right people are the people who share your core values, right? Culturally, they fit into your organization. And so you've just got to make sure that you've got, the right people within your organization that believe in the same core values that you believe in. And then lastly, or next, are they in the right seat, right? So once we understand that they belong here culturally, are they actually aligned in what we're asking them to do with their roles and responsibilities? So are they on the right seat on our bus, right? And again, using the bus analogy, which for those of you who have read Jim Collins in Good to Great, that's exactly where this is coming from, is right people, right seats. We also talk about the accountability chart. Again, you all might refer to it as your organization chart. Did your bus on January 1st have 22 seats? And for many of us, that bus might only have 18 seats right now. So we've got to make sure that, our bus is expanding and contracting as necessary and as the market is demanding that it does. So when you talk about right people and right seats, are you missing any key positions? Do you need all of the positions that you once thought that you had to have? And then also, if you've got the right people, are they coming and asking what they can take off of your plate? Because that's just as important as to make sure that you're doing that. So we also talk about right people, right seats. Is are we taking care of the unique abilities of our people? And so we have to know what those unique abilities are. And so what happens many times is we write a job description, we go out into the marketplace, and we interview for those, but people come to us with a huge amount of experience. I'll give you an example, and Linda, who's a good friend of mine, and I've known her for 20 plus years, we were working at a construction company in Denver and Colorado, and we were just starting to learn how to build concrete tip-up buildings. And nobody in the leadership team had ever built a concrete tip-up building. And so we were scurrying around trying to figure out, where's the talent? How are we going to do this? This is a new product. This is a new way to assemble a building. And finally, we just asked, and we realized that one of the project managers had plenty of experience building concrete tip-up buildings for a previous company. And so we had all the talent right there in-house. But if we had never asked, we would have never known that we had that talent. So, make sure that you're getting to know your people and that you're taking advantage of their unique abilities and their experience and frankly, their own desires and passions. Somebody may not have the experience doing something or the ability, but they might have the passion to learn it. So, make sure that you're tapping into the resources that you have right underneath your own roof before you even go outside sometimes and looking for a solution. So that's what we talk about, right people, right seats. So again, I'd encourage you guys to really think about, what are the right people, right seats, and do you have those, and are you using the ability and intellectual ability that your organization may already have? And where are your people with regards to capacity? So we might have right people, right seats, but we may be over capacity or maybe even under capacity, right? So let's just make sure that we are intentional and understanding what we mean by capacity. And so what I mean by that is that, a lot of time as members of leadership teams, as entrepreneurs, as many of us are on this call, our capacity is significantly higher than maybe some of our colleagues or some of our employees. So I really need you guys to dig in and learn what is the capacity of your fellow colleagues, because some people can only work 42 hours a week. And you know what? In that 42 hours, they are giving us A+. But if they're in the office on the 45th hour, it's just dysfunctional. They're not getting any work done. They're getting frustrated. Their colleagues are frustrated. Somebody else's definition of time might be 60 hours a week. We don't know. We've got to figure that out. And so, when we talk about 100% of the time, you've got to make sure that you're actually able to quantify what are your individual team members' definition of that time, because what you're capable of and what somebody else is capable of is probably not exactly the same. And as much as I'm asking you guys to do this with your colleagues, make sure you learn it about yourself. That we all hit a wall at some point. We all need to put our work down. We all need to walk away from it for a little bit. So when we talk about capacity, if we are over capacity, then what do we do about it, right? So some of the things I would encourage you to do is think about some efficiencies that you can put into place to help your capacity. The natural thing there is to answer is well, I'm just going to delegate work. So before you delegate work, let me encourage you to think about it this way. What if there's a task that you can get 80% of the task done in 20% of the time, and then hand it off to somebody else in your organization that loves to dig into the minutia, that loves to be the vice president of charts and graphs, and will actually sort of get that product over the finish line for you, doing the stuff that, for many of us is just draining. It's just, it's not energizing at all, but we got 80% of the work done in 20% of the time, then hand off the rest of it. Let them, go finish the project. And then there is, of course, things that you could delegate. I would encourage you guys, think of 3 things that you could delegate right now and just get them off your plate. And then the last one is sometimes you do have to undelegate. Sometimes, some of your people are just actually sort of overloaded. And sometimes in change or crisis, there are actually decisions that, maybe 2 years ago you did give up, that you delegated, but right now it might actually be appropriate for you to undelegate those things. So again, look at what's on your plate, look at maybe decisions that maybe you are the most responsible, the most responsive person within your organization right now, and you might actually decide to undelegate something while actually delegating something else. So I would encourage you look at what are you doing on the capacity side, and what do you know about yourself, and what do you know about your team members. But with regards to prioritizing is are you prioritizing well, right? So what does that mean? Well, in the EOS world, when we talk about prioritizing, we talk about the ability to predict. So the ability to know when to deal with something, and we talk about different time frames in which to address those issues. And so, when we talk about this ability to predict, we sort of say, okay, well, what are the number one thing or issues or situations that you must address right now? Because not everything is equally important, and not everything has the same time frame. So once we figure out, once we need to prioritize something and we actually figure out, okay, what do we have to deal with today? Then we actually talk about what are the time frames that we can deal with. And I don't really care if you use these buckets here of time, whether it's today, this week, 30 days, less than 90, more than 90, 1 year. Come up with your own things. One of my clients, they just think in a 45-day world. So what? It's 45 days. But the point here is that I want you guys to learn that you need to compartmentalize everything that's on your plate and prioritize it. And once you prioritize it 1 through 10, then you start to compartmentalize it in different time frames in which you can actually address these issues. So for example, you might have a lease that's due at the end of the year. Well, it's pretty important, but do you need to deal with that today, this week, 30 days from now? Probably not. But within 90 days, you probably need to start talking to a broker, making sure that the cost per square foot is valid, or maybe it's not anymore, or what you're going to do about it. But knowing that, okay, yes, that's an issue, but I can deal with that about 45 days from now, is just getting it off of your plate and allowing you to deal with the immediate problems that are in front of you. And so when we talk about prioritizing, we just want to make sure that we're working within the time frame that works well. So what I want you to think about is how do you win the day, right? This is the mantra that we currently need to be going through because of the situation we're in. Do we win the day? Did we win the week, right? And so when we talk about, prioritizing and knocking down issues, I don't want you just to sort of subjectively feel like, okay, I won the day, let me high five myself or let me pat myself on the back. I need you to define it. I need you to give me some measurables so that we know that we won the day, right? It might be, number of contracts that have gone out the door. It might be number of leads that have come in the door. It might be the fact that we wanted to reduce our AR by the end of the week, by $100,000. So that might be the goal for the week. So make sure that you have measurables and that you're able to measure when you're talking about prioritizing and winning the day. So, are you prioritizing well? And once you do prioritize well, again, that's that ability to predict when you need to deal with issues and that you're dealing with them in the right time frame, right? The last one on our issues for today, we had 6 items. This is the 6th one. Is that are we looking at short-term problems and are we solving short-term problems with the long-term view? And so when we talk about that, we want to make sure that we are looking at these short-term problems, these distractions, these disruptions with a long-term view. So once we've prioritized them and we've identified them, we want to make sure that we're solving them with the long-term greater good of the company in mind, and that they're always aligned. All of our decisions, even in this time of distraction and when things are coming at us at 1,000,000 miles an hour, that all of our decisions are being made in alignment with the core values and the core focus of the company. And so stick to your goal, right? Make sure that you're looking at this with a long-term view. Don't let your customers, your suppliers, the bank, the PPP change your strategic vision. Don't compromise your morals and your integrity and the values of your company for a short-term issue, right? That it's going to kill your culture and ultimately confuse the marketplace and certainly your colleagues and your employees. So just make sure that everything is in alignment with your core values and your core focus. So as a recap, we just make sure that you're solving these short-term issues, these short-term opportunities. They don't always have to be negative. They can be opportunities that you're looking at them with the long-term view and that they're in alignment with the strategic vision of your company. So to start to wrap up, we want to make sure that our fundamentals are in place, that everything is as simple as possible, that your direct reports are the right people in the right seats, that once they are, where are they at the capacity level? If they're under capacity, let's make sure we give them more work. If they're over capacity, let's make sure we're helping them out. Are we prioritizing well, right? Are we predicting what we need to deal with next, and are we dealing within the right time frame? And then, again, with our short-term problems, are we making sure that we have a long-term view and making decisions with the core values and the core focus of our organization, in mind? And my last slide here is I really want you guys just to focus on progress, right? Are we trending in the right direction? Are we going the right place? Because perfection is absolutely the enemy of a great organization. And so just focus on progress, focus on, moving us in the right direction. So with that, I'll hand it back to Angela and Debbie and to everybody on the call, and let me know what I can do to help.
Thanks, George. That was great. So does anyone have any questions for George?
It can't be. Come on, guys.
I actually have one, not just for you, but for the group itself. What are some ways that you guys evaluate your employees' capacity? Like, how do you know if they're, working to capacity, or are there some things, George, you would recommend?
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact of the matter is we have a tool in EOS that we call Delegate and Elevate, but think of it just as your classic sort of 4-quadrant matrix, right, or rubrics, right? So in the upper left-hand quadrant, those are the things that you love to do and you like to do. In the upper right are the things that you like to do and you're pretty good at, right? Then in the bottom left are things that you're good at, but you don't like to do. And then there's things that down here that you're not good at and you don't like to do. And
Mm-hmm.
so, when someone is struggling, when you notice that maybe someone's attitude or behavior is a little bit short, and then they're not acting like themselves, sit down with them with that rubrics. And I'd be happy to share it with anybody, or certainly with you, Angela. And just sit down with them and literally say to them, hey, tell me everything that's going on, everything I'm asking you to do, everything in your job description, but put it in one of these 4 buckets and figure out what they, where they're coming at and how they're addressing their job and their job description. If what you're asking them to do is 100% aligned with their job description and they're telling you everything is at the bottom of this page, well, then you don't have the right person in the right seat in your organization, right? But a lot of times there's just frankly therapy and asking somebody to go through that exercise. They actually realize that a lot of the work they do get excitement from and enjoyment from, and they might just come back to you and say, you know what, I'm in a pretty good place, but it's just too much right now.
Mm-hmm.
In which case, there's just some empathy with that and say, yeah, I'm doing too much also right now. And how do we work together? Maybe changing some timelines or some deadlines on some things, maybe taking something back from them, that sort of thing. But I think, Angela, to answer your original question, I would look for people's behavior. Somebody who is normally very happy and positive in your office, that is always willing, and now they're sort of a little bit short with you. They're demonstrating bad behavior. That's a very large leading indicator of stress and being overworked and overwhelmed within the office.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for George?
I just want to make a comment.
Hi, Ed.
George. Oh, sorry about that. I got a call while it was coming in. Hey,
Oh, we can't hear you for some reason, Ed.
People on here. Hold on. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah.
I just want to let people know that there is a scarcity of pressure-treated lumber that is coming down the pipe. Some of our competitors are completely out. Just so that you guys know that we do have some, and our supplier has some, but there will be some price increases coming on pressure-treated lumber. And if you need to get some, I would get some on order ASAP from whomever.
Hey, Ed, do you want to throw that out on the listserv?
Yeah. Let me get all the details first. But that was just something that I found out today. So let me get the details.
Okay. Thank you. And we had a few people who joined the call and didn't get a chance to introduce themselves and their company, and we want to make sure you guys have that moment. So, James, let's see, is it Bart and Christine?
Yeah, we've got, I think there's actually 3 of us. This is Bart James. I'm the president and CEO of Air Conditioning Contractor. I know George from former life. George, good to see you. Nice to hear you bringing your expertise to the table. But Air Conditioning Contractors National Trade Association, representing contractors, residential and commercial, doing more than half the work in the U.S. So we're happy to join y'all.
Thanks for being here. We appreciate you guys being on the call. And then let's see, who else did I miss? Sean Daghai, are you still here? Bye, Katie.
I think he jumped off.
Okay. And then let's see, who else did we have that came on? Sean Robertson, are you on the call?
Yes, I'm part of the Air Conditioning Contractors of America team.
Great. Well, glad you guys are here. Did I miss anyone? How about Jason Holstein? Jason, did you get a chance to introduce yourself?
I did very early on.
Okay, forgive me.
No worries at all.
Short-term memory issues. I'm like Dory the fish.
I know what you're talking about.
All right. Well, any last minute questions for George?
I do have one question if I could.
Oh, please do.
Which is basically like from the perception of like onboarding or starting from a blank. So not necessarily fixing processes, but starting processes. Let's say we wanted to use the opportunity to say that, blank slate, maybe bring onboarding new people or such like that. What would be some simple best practices for getting it right the first time? Establishing roles and establishing new methodology. If we're going to think new, think different.
So I think it's a great question, and I'm sort of hearing two questions really. So one is sort of, onboarding of new team members. Is that right, Jason? Is that?
Well, yeah, but more under the, like, if we were to look at this little episode of the last couple months as as an opportunity for reinvention. So let's throw the past to the past and start new. Let's, we're going to bring in some new faces, or and how to negotiate that renewal.
So I mean, I think if I hear your question, first of all, is I would use your core values and your core focus as part of your recruiting, right? I would literally start demonstrating to the marketplace the type of employee that's going to be successful in your organization, so that you're recruiting to people that are aligned with your cultural values right from the beginning. And then you start interviewing them for that just as much as you're interviewing them for the roles and the responsibilities or the accountabilities that you're going to have when you come on board. So I would take the opportunity to bring that upstream and not try to figure out either during the interview process or after the fact, are they aligned with you, right? Because at the end of the day, we can almost look at every one of our unique organization, and I bet 80% of our problems are people problems, right? I mean, it's either people or process problems. I mean, those are the two biggest problems that we all have, as entrepreneurial organizations. And so if we can start eliminating some of those people process up front, or the people problems, with using our core values, our core focus as part of our recruiting, go ahead and do that. Jason, my email is down there. You shoot me an email, I can shoot you back a bunch of emails of other EOS companies that are using core value speeches as part of their recruiting process. So that might be helpful there. With regards to actual process documentation, I would just encourage you to simplify and document your processes. Take the opportunities to start new. And what I would encourage you to do is take like an 80-20 approach, that, document 20% of your processes, because I bet that will get you actually about 80% of the way of where you want to go. So really force yourself and challenge yourself to only try to document 20% of your key processes. And one way I've found really helpful to do this is literally just go and buy, now on Amazon, 4x6 or 5x7 sticky pads, and just sit down with your team and say, okay, what is our sales process? And have them write it down, and then go stick it up on a whiteboard and start moving it around, and then just documenting what are the key processes within that process, and just call that your playbook. Because the problem is that we start building these 700-page SOPs and nobody follows them. They're just collecting dust anyways.
Right. Okay. Yep. Excellent. Thank you.
Debbie, I think about that we're working on our policy manual. I'm like, let's just throw out 80% of it. Can't we?
Yeah. Right. Now you tell me.
Well, and let me throw out, and this is for everybody, for Jason, just remember, some people are naturally genetically coded, such as myself, to make things complex. That I want to document, and then, by the way, I want to document some more. We call those people high fact finders, right? And so if you're dealing with a high fact finder, for example, a CFO typically is a high fact finder, you need to have very minutia level of things. But there's also some people who are genetically coded to simplify things. A lot of those people we call extroverts. A lot of those people we call entrepreneurs. And a lot of those people we call members of the Wild West, who are just running around shooting off guns, right? But somewhere in the middle of those two is a great process for your unique organization.
Cool. All right. Any other questions or comments or thoughts? There's my appropriate wait time. All right. Well, George, thank you. That was very helpful. I have lots of notes.
Perfect.
Yeah. Anyway. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Next week we have a webinar. It's a futurist. MA Architects were going to be with us next week. I watched their presentation about a week and a half ago, and it was so intriguing. Their job is to kind of take what's going on and predict what they think will happen. And they focus on the different generations, how they are responding to it, how things will change design-wise in our communities, in our workplaces. But a really interesting presentation. So I encourage you to join us next week for that. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's Wednesday at 4, might be Thursday at 4. Again, Dory the Fish. All right. Well, again, thanks everyone for being on today. This webinar recording will be available. And George, how about the slide deck? Would you like me to include that with the webinar recording going out to people?
Sure, yes, no problem. Do you want me to send it to you as a PDF then, or what's best?
PDF is great, absolutely. And then I'll just put it into a file with the recording. And then I'll get you a list of people who attended so you can reach out and just, let them know with some of those follow-up items that you mentioned. I personally would like the matrix on capacity.
Great. Yeah, no, absolutely. Anybody on the call, my info's there, and Angela's obviously got my information, and I am a NARI member, so you can just search for me or my company name and find me and reach out anytime, or my website. You can reach me through there. Anyway, I'm happy to help. I mean, I love it. This stuff is energizing for me. So as long as I don't have to go balance a checkbook, I'll sit here and chat with you guys until midnight. So.
Amen. Right. Absolutely. All right. Well, everyone, thanks for being on here, and have a great Memorial Day weekend.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, George.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Take care.
Take care. Have a good one.
Bye.